Okay, so thanks for joining us, Anne and Roisin. We're absolutely delighted to have you and really appreciate you giving your time to us here today. And to start off, I might just ask you to introduce yourself and the organisation that you're with.
Okay, well, I'm Anne Shortt. I'm the head of fundraising for the Alzheimer's Society Drogheda branch, which is Drogheda Lodge. We're here in Drogheda 25 years, and I've been part of the volunteer group there for over 20 years at this stage. So it's all part of my life at this time. So as you all know, we're building a new building. So it's great to see it finally coming to time with us, and you know, it's been a big dream of mine, and after 25 years it's finally going to open next January. So you know, all going well, and thanks for all the support that we're getting from the likes of Roisin there in the schools. It's great, you know, and long may it go on. Yeah.
Huge achievement, Anne, I have to
Yeah,
say, and
huge.
driven by voluntary effort, which is
Yeah,
amazing. Like,
very much so.
absolutely,
Yeah, very
absolutely.
much so.
And Roisin, over to you.
So my name is Roisin Curtis. I'm a teacher and transition year coordinator in St Mary's Diocesan School in Drogheda in County Louth. This is my 5th year in the role of coordinator. We have 4 classes of 24, so we've 96 students in transition year for a number of years now.
Huge transition year.
Yeah.
There'll be some schools, some bigger, some smaller, but that's
Yeah.
a significant number of pupils to bring through what is an actual program transition year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's busy.
Yeah.
Busy.
Yeah. So you've both kind of given a little introduction in relation to your organisation and school there, which is great. Can I ask how you became connected to one another?
Well, I think, now correct me if I'm wrong, Roisin, but I think going back about 4 years, the guys from St Mary's used to come and visit our clients in the centre, and they got to know them, and you know, it was so nice to see a young group of guys just sitting with people who kind of maybe today would know them, tomorrow mightn't, you know, but they would sit and chat to them, and they'd learn their stories, and they'd take part in some music things. And I mean, like, people with dementia, sometimes all they want is someone to hold their hand and kind of tell them everything's fine, and you know, and get a little bit of knowledge. And like, the lads did it so well. Like, I have to say, a lot of the schools in Drogheda would come and visit us on and off, but St Mary's particularly did it constantly. And I mean, you know, it's just fantastic to think that guys of their age group would bother with people, you know, like our clients that, you know, have memory issues. And you know, it's just so nice. I suppose in some ways, some of them would think of their grannies or their parents, or, you know, and say, well, if this was mine, I'd love somebody to do this. And that's what it's all about, isn't it, Roisin? Like,
yeah, I think when I took over the role of coordinator in St Mary's, I wanted a bigger focus on community work and involvement. So in our first year, we came up with the theme of community, and all of the classes kind of work towards that. But I definitely want a big focus on volunteering in it. Myself, I do volunteer work, you know, outside of school as well. And I thought that it would be invaluable for the lads to have that. You know, it's something that you'll never be taught in a classroom. Those guys look forward to going down, and obviously the people in Drogheda were looking forward to the boys coming every week as well. I went down myself, and some of the initiatives and things we've done, I've seen like the positive impact it's had, but I've seen the boys grow even more from it as well. And as I said, you'll never get that in a classroom. It's not something you'll learn from a book. You know, it's going down and spending time with them. It teaches patience, it teaches empathy. Some people, as you said, have lost their own grandparents, and it kind of gives them a connection. And then some people who maybe, you know, hadn't seen their grandparents in a while, again, they had a connection there too. So
That's gorgeous. So many things in that, actually, Roisin.
yeah.
First, I suppose, to recognize that both of you are volunteering your time for this, indeed, this video, even in itself. And remind all the volunteering you do outside of your work life as well. But that, you know, the value that's there in terms of there's, as you said, empathy and other skills that you develop as a student that cannot be taught in the classroom. The benefits of doing voluntary activity to gain those skills.
and that's something that we're very aware of, that it's very important for young people to learn about dementia and Alzheimer's at a young age, because you know, there's still that little bit of stigma involved with it, and when you go to talk to people, they really don't want to talk about it because they don't know enough about it. And they kind of get a bit embarrassed, and they kind of think, yeah, well, I really don't know about that. But going into schools now, and the things that Roisin is doing with her students there, it's just become invaluable. Like the Alzheimer's Society have a new project going, and Roisin was actually the first from Louth to take part in it, and I think she's found it very good. And I know from speaking to some of the guys that I know myself from Roisin's class, they're finding it very interesting. It's something that they, you know, I said to one chap that lives quite close to me, you know, how are you finding it? You know, do you think you know a little bit more about Alzheimer's? And he said, yeah. And like, I'm not afraid to talk about it now, and I'll go into the other guys' classes and we'll discuss it. And like, there are things that have never happened, you know, in the past.
Yeah,
It's been
and that's a
avoided.
big thing, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I found that myself, like obviously, like before I started this with my students, I didn't know anything really about dementia myself, and it was actually I had seen a thing done in America where they played music for elderly people in a nursing home. And I remember thinking I'd love to do that with my students. And I think that's how we first made contact. Was I had contacted Drogheda Lodge to see if they would be interested. And they were the first ones to get back and get on board with it. And, you know, I would have found when I was younger, you were nearly afraid of people like that. Do you know, like that, because it wasn't spoken about and you didn't have the education on it, you were kind of afraid, and also afraid to speak about it. Whereas I see the lads now, and they're 15 and 16 years of age, and they're going into first year classes and giving a talk to them on it. And it's educating now a whole generation from it. And they're actually always really surprised about how many people are actually affected by dementia and Alzheimer's within their own family. So they'd normally ask the first years to show a hand if they know somebody affected by it. And, you know, it's quite large numbers. So it's good to see now that the boys are ending up learning about it and then teaching younger generations about it. And by the time they get to transition year, they again will be able to pass that knowledge on. So, I mean, that's what the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland is doing through the peer education. And as Anne said, we were a pilot school for it last year. We were the first school to take it on in Louth, and we'll do it every single year because it has been amazing for them, you know.
Yeah.
So that's, I suppose, obviously we're speaking very specifically about dementia and Alzheimer's because that's the Alzheimer's Society, but I think that also shows engaging with any kind of activity with people in the community that you aren't, you know, their lives are different to yours, or they have, you know, they're having a different or challenging experience, is eye-opening for students, but also then they can then share that learning as well. So there's that whole kind of ripple effect. And when we speak about that in terms of volunteering all the time ourselves, there is a ripple effect. So you make a difference in one person's life, make a difference to their family, make a difference to their neighbor, you know, and it all ripples out, you know.
Yeah.
And there was something you both said earlier, and you had said about the fact that St. Mary's came in consistently. Like, so they were at school that came in on a regular basis. And then Roisin, you mentioned about the fact that Drogheda Lodge came back to you. So I wonder, could you speak to maybe the advantages of having a strong community link or community connections in offering opportunities for volunteering for students in schools, if that's okay?
Yeah, well, you know, it's great now that we have that contact with Roisin, and we have very strong contact, I like to think, because like the things that our students have done over the last 4 years for us, like, I mean, I've been down in the school numerous times collecting checks, that they've been out fundraising, and one chap got his hair cut and, like, you know, raised loads of money, like things that you kind of don't expect young people to do. But in even doing that now, like, you know, the ripple effect from it, I suppose, if you want to say, is that we're getting other schools involved. And I mean, like Greenhills, for example, would have come and done little visits with us, but now they're going to start the program as well. We have St. Joseph's are going to start the program with us. They want to do exactly what St. Mary's is doing, and they want to learn more about it. They've done a bit of fundraising for us last year as well, and St. Oliver's have helped us with, you know, some of our fundraising, which would be like flag days, memory ribbon days, things like that. So I mean, it's spreading to the school. So I think from our knowledge with Roisin and her school, we are growing to see what the other schools would like to do with us. And, you know, I paid a visit to a couple of the schools recently now because of our new building, and they're all saying they'd love to get involved. And, you know, we've actually got 2 secondary schools either side of us, so there's going to be great competition on who's going to come on what day. But, you know, we wanted to continue, we wanted to get bigger, because our clients love it. They love the students come in. They're young people. They're looking at them. They're seeing young people. If they want to talk, if they want to sing, if they want to dance, it doesn't matter what they want to do, but they're young people there talking to them. And if you can imagine, like, you know, for some of these poor people, it's a case of people are afraid to come and sit with them, even to talk to them, you know. And it's just, again, to get to know what Alzheimer's is, and you know, and how to deal with people with it, you know, that sort of way. So I think it's just fantastic that we have this relationship. And I mean, Roisin is continuing to do things with her lads, you know, and we'll continue to work with her. And, you know, I think it's just going to expand. And I think we have talked about Drogheda being a dementia friendly town, and I think it's going to start with our young people.
Fantastic. I will say that we will have people participating here today from Dundalk and Lear as well, but the same principles but the same principles apply in terms of that dementia awareness and getting young people involved.
We've a huge centre in Dundalk too, like
and
I know they have similar things going on, and you know, it's just great that it's spreading for us, you know.
And I'm a Dundalk woman myself.
I know,
and some of the volunteering I do there is with the Simon community. And my own parents have set up the Sleep Out for the Simon, which takes place every December. So they're always crying out for schools to get involved, you know. And obviously my mum's always asking, I'm kind of like, Mammy, I'm in Drogheda, I can't be doing that in Dundalk. But yeah, they're always looking for students to get involved and do fundraising there as well. You know, there's great work going on within Dundalk as well. So I think the main thing there, we talk about a connection, it's reaching out, you know. And obviously within like TY coordinators, I know that there can be a turnover in that, new people coming in, not sure where to start. Honestly, just Google and email, you know, like that's where, I mean, I'd heard about Drogheda from one of my colleagues, but it was literally from just getting in contact with Helen in the first place up there, and her saying yes and back and forth. And like sometimes it takes a bit of time to get it going, but now we have the contact with Anne and Noel and Helen. And I mean, it's fantastic to be able to just, you know, send an email and say, look, when can we start visiting again, and that kind of stuff. Even things like volunteering away from that, we do litter picks, you know, and the county council is delighted if you just send them a message, they'll send you out all of the litter pickers and things like that. You know, volunteering can be happening anywhere, and it's really good to have the kids having a bit of ownership on their town and local area as well.
Yeah, I love that bit of ownership, and that kind of connects with what Anne is saying as well, as the start with our young people. If you're going to have a dementia friendly town, start with young people, getting people involved in their community at an early age. That's obviously our big mantra here in Louth Volunteer Centre. I will put a little plug in for us as well, that we would be connected to the vast majority of community organisations across the whole of County Louth. So if a new TY coordinator did come into post, we can sometimes be a good port of call to start with if they're really starting from scratch. And, you know, like that, we say, oh, ring Anne. Anne's the woman for that question, you know, and make those kind of connections, because that's what volunteering is about. It's about community connections and connecting to each other.
We saw it ourselves at the FLA. Like, what was the FLA? The FLA just, it was just such good fun. It was, you know, I mean, myself as a volunteer, I went to volunteer for you, and I mean, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I met so many people. I did so many different things I don't normally do, but you sent me out there, you know,
I know.
And I loved it. I loved it, you know, and the amount of young people that took part in it was just fantastic. You know?
And sometimes young people can get such a bad name as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, people are quick, if you see vandalism or something, they'll blame teenagers. But like, I see my teenagers like out there that are doing litter picks and looking after the community, volunteering with elderly people. They go over to Abacus and they do games with the lads over there. Sometimes bring them over to our school to do woodwork and that, you know. So like, there's so much going on there already. And it's important to kind of get out there about, you know, young people, because they're amazing and they're delighted to be doing it, you know, if anything, to get out of class to do those things. But no, it is really important to have that kind of aspect, and transition year is the perfect opportunity to be doing that.
It is. And I'll say that we're quite passionate. One of the reasons why we're doing this conference today is we're passionate about youth volunteers. So as Anne said there, we had 1,000 volunteers at the FLA. We had a goal of getting 20% of those were going to be under 18s, because it can be challenging for young people to access volunteering. We actually had 25% in year 2, and they were the best volunteers. They were fantastic. They gave up so much of their time. They had so much energy and enthusiasm. But I will be talking later about access to volunteering for young people. obviously today we're talking in the schools environment specifically, and it's about maybe encouraging that community connections with schools, or maybe getting young people to identify groups in their community that they could potentially support. But in general, we're very huge believers in young people volunteering, and I suppose part of today as well is to raise the students awareness of the value of volunteering, but also the value of them volunteering, so that how much they can bring to the picture, as well as, you know, the value they get from it, you know.
Yeah.
Just going to check my questions here. So we spoke quite a bit there about, you know, certainly in the Drogheda Lodge there, and where the value for the person, you know, the client that's there, and to have a young person sitting with them, and to have young people coming into them, and have people actually value them. I use the word value a lot, but, you know, like, there is a sense of, if they're coming in to see me and chat to me and sit with me every week, I am of value here. And what do you think the value for the students, the person themselves? I know, Roisin, you touched on it earlier with empathy and that, but in a school setting, what is the value of getting involved in community volunteering?
Oh, I mean, like, I have seen guys who had started in transition year and were very quiet and didn't really speak out, and that, like, completely mature from it, you know, because it was the first step in stepping outside their comfort zone, and you know, doing something that was completely different from what they'd ever done before. Obviously, the fact with transition year, it gives them that chance to get out of the classroom and do things within the community, and, as I said, take ownership. So, for example, when they do the litter picks, I would see those guys that are telling younger lads then to pick up their rubbish, you know, because they see that I'm after spending 40 minutes in my last class down, you know, picking all that up. So, you know, it makes them more aware there. As I said, it's more ownership as well. So within any of the volunteering, like, the lads were, you know, in the nursing home, for example, they're calling them all by their first name. They're, you know, calling them their friends. And, you know, so they're making new friends, but they're also making friends within transition year, because what I would try and do is get everybody to go, and we would have kind of swapped it up and had maybe a panel of lads that start at the year, and then there'd always be one or two of them going, so there would be some familiarity. So they even make friends within their own group outside of their just comfort zone, you know. Like, honestly, the pride in it as well, the pride that they have in it. Like I said, when we did the music and memory, and they gifted those MP3 players to the people, and like, even myself, I was in tears nearly, just with happiness to see how amazing it was, and they felt so much pride in that. And with that initiative, we ended up being on the RT News for it, and it has spread across Ireland. So there's transition years all around the country doing it now. So, like, those boys will always remember, like, what they did, you know, in 2018, I think it was, you know, that they actually started a movement, you know, and a lot of times that is on it. So I think just a huge sense of pride and achievement from it, for themselves. But for me, I can see the growth, and I can see the empathy, and you can see lads that just genuinely have it in them, you know, like, when they're a bit quieter, and, you know, they'll have the conversation and not feel kind of nervous and that. And it's a lovely thing to see in teenagers, like, you know, how nice it can be to tell the elderly, or somebody an abacus, and, you know.
I mean, that was a lot of work, Roisin. They put a lot of work into that, you know, and, you know, they took really the pride they had with it. It was just fantastic, like, you know.
Yeah, and it's great to follow through on something. You know, we normally try and come up with something different every year that they can get behind, because I prefer for my lads to have something they can take ownership on, rather than, oh, that went well last year, let's do that again. So we always kind of do a thought sharing at the start of the year and come up with some idea. And we do have something in the pipeline, but I'm not going to reveal that.
No.
Yeah, something that each group can take ownership on and say, we came up with that, we followed it through, and now look at, you know, the ripples or the effect that it's having, you know.
Yeah, like, I mean, a simple one was the dogs, you know, going out and fundraising to buy the dogs and giving them to all our clients. Like, you know, the joy our clients got from those dogs. Do you know what I mean?
Do you want to tell a little bit more about that, Anne? Because I'm conscious there'll be schools maybe attending and they don't know the story of the dogs.
Roisin's group was it last year, Roisin?
Last year, yeah. So
they gathered together, and they decided they were going to buy toy dogs. cuddly dogs that you'd buy in probably Smith's, was it, Roisin? Do you want
Yeah.
to tell the story, Roisin? You know the whole thing.
So basically, obviously we couldn't do any of the visits with COVID, but we still wanted to let them know that we were there and we were thinking of them and we wanted to have a connection there. So we came up with the idea of Dogs for Dementia. And there's research out there and all showing that cuddly teddies and that can be a great comfort. So we fundraised, all the boys kind of raised to buy one dog. So we had 96 lads in total, and we managed to raise or buy 96 cuddly teddy dogs. And they put a card in. They also bought little collars and put a name on the dog. And then everybody got a dog coming up to Christmas, I think it was. And again, it was a nice thing to have there. And I think, Anne, when you were in, you were telling us a story about a man who had lost his dog.
He just lost his dog. God love him, and he was heartbroken, and we arrived with our little packages, and his wife was telling us the following week, she said he took the dog out of the bag, and she said he started cuddling the dog, and he hasn't put the dog down since, and he's calling the dog by the name of his own dog, so it's such a comfort to him, do you know what I mean? And it's just such a nice little story, but and they mean a lot to people with dementia, do you know what I mean? They really do, and that's his dog now, and nobody else can take it from him, but it was such a nice thing to do, it really was,
Brilliant idea. I have to say, that I was actually looking things up there when you were talking, and in Loud Volunteer Centre, our mission is that our community will be enriched by the benefits of volunteering. And what you're talking about there is enrichment on everybody's side. The students are getting something, the benefit is being paid off to the person with the dog or with the Alzheimer's Society. But also we define volunteering, there's lots of definitions of volunteering, but we define volunteering as freely offering to do something that meets a need in the community that would not otherwise be met. And I'm very struck, Roisin, by the way that your voluntary activity is led by the students themselves. So there's an identification of something, and they go full belt behind it, and when you do that, again, volunteering is the first step towards active citizenship. You're not just committed to it or engaged with it, but you're going to get personal benefits from it, but our whole community gets a benefit from it. But I was very struck by that. I think that fits very strongly with our definition of volunteering, which is freely offering to do something that meets a need in the community that would not otherwise be met. Sorry, I'm just going back to my questions here, because this is actually wonderful ideas for other schools potentially as well, but hopefully for students, conveying to them the value of getting involved in community activity and volunteering. Would you have any key learnings or hot tips to share with other schools or in relation to student volunteering and community engagement?
Personally, I would say that obviously it's important that it is coming from the students, and you'll be surprised that maybe some of the students are already involved in things that they can come forward with, so normally I would kind of say to the students, look, if there's any charity you're involved in, or if there's something that you're really passionate about, do come forward and let me know. It's not necessarily just about, oh, Miss Curtis is picking this and this, so like it definitely comes from the students and something that they're going to do, because that's half the battle, and I think, making sure that you're given time on your timetable as well. I know when I first started out, it was coming out of my own classes, and I teach woodwork, and I'd be kind of trying to organize volunteering and stuff in that, but they were missing out on my own class as a result. So a bit of forethought in terms of, we now have community care on our timetable. So all of our students have it 3 times a week, and that's where they would concentrate on any of their voluntary work and that. Also getting speakers in, the likes of Anne there is happy to come into a school, Noel and so on. So many people are happy to come in. Grania, we had you in yourself when I started off as well, so like reaching out and getting people in to start that link, and start the idea with the teachers and the students of where exactly you can go from,
As a community,
Sorry, Granny, just to mention a new initiative of the Alzheimer's Society. They've joined partnership with Goshka, and so you can now do part of your Goshka President's Award. I know in the past it's been all climbing mountains and going on field trips and whatever, but you can now take part in that for doing something for Alzheimer's, which is the initiative that Grania has set up. So, I mean, that's another side of it. If you don't want to be a person going out climbing hills and whatever, but you want to get your Goshka Award, it's something to maybe, tell your teachers, can we try this? Or if you want to do something like that instead. Do you know what I mean? So I'm sure there's plenty of ways that the students can help out in different organizations. Like there's so many of us out there begging for help all the time, and you know yourself, it's not always easy to get people. Like the weekend, for example, I had a bucket collection. Very last minute, we were just given our permit at the last minute, so it didn't give me an opportunity to actually go online and ask for volunteers. So I had to try and manage myself. We did it okay, it was grand, but I did really need the help, which shows, and the volunteers are out there to be got. So, give yourself time and, get your volunteers in. And, I think the volunteers will love helping. Like people were delighted to see us back on the street. I couldn't believe it. I didn't think anyone would miss me that much, but they were delighted that we were there. So it was good. Do you know what I mean? But
and also, as a student's point of view, a lot of them will be looking at work experience in the coming year and maybe coming up to Christmas or after. Things like that are great to have on your CV as well. Apart from the fact you're getting so much from it, it's great to see that in a CV as well, because maybe if they're 15 or 16, they don't have past jobs to be putting down as references and so on. So it's great to be able to say, well, actually, I do regular collections for such and such, or I've, been involved in, green schools in our school, or whatever it is, so those things are important as well for that.
They really are. I mean, I'm still writing references for young people who volunteered at the FLA. I know we mentioned the FLA earlier, which was that huge event, and for other young people who volunteered as well. And like we're always saying it, I mean, something like 70% of employers say that if they see somebody with volunteering on their CV and somebody without, they'll take the volunteering. That's much more highly regarded, because it's obviously giving time to the community. And just to speak to what you said there, Anne, organizations are coming back into the community. Our activity is starting to pick up again. And volunteers are really badly needed at the moment. So if you can find opportunities for young people to volunteer and to contribute and to support our community, because there is a bit of a gap happening at the moment where groups are coming back open and volunteers aren't ready there. So there's possibly an opportunity for young people in terms of voluntary engagement maybe they couldn't have accessed before, so maybe it's around schools reaching out and connecting with the community now, because it's now that everything is opening up and now that the opportunities are presenting themselves. So that's brilliant. I think we've covered practically everything on my list. I don't know if you have any final point that you want to make or that you'd like to share with our many students and teachers that are with us here today.
Yeah, well, Gráinne, personally, I would just like to say thanks to you and your organisation, because throughout the years, it's been difficult for us sometimes to get out there and do a bit of fundraising, and only for you that we can go to the volunteer centre and apply for volunteers. And we've always got great volunteers, I have to say. Some of them are still with me. Some of them loved it so much they keep coming back. And even to meet new people coming along the road, you don't just put somebody in a box, because I've had different people for different organizations. Like, our biggest fan at the moment would be David. David, and David was with me on Saturday and loves to get out in the street. And do you know what I mean? That's his thing. I've had other organizations like the Order of Malta, who would send some of their clients down to fundraise for us. So, I mean, there's no box there to say you have to be a certain type of person to be a fundraiser. So, I mean, fundraising is for everybody, and you will get great joy out of it. So, I mean, thanks to you and your volunteer centre for helping us through all these years.
And thanks a million for saying that, Anne, because it is about all abilities. It doesn't, there is a role for everyone and there's a space for everybody in volunteering. It's just finding the right space for them. But as you say, their fundraising is so important and it needs lots and lots and lots of people to support it. Roisin, any final words from yourself?
Yeah, I think I'd like to second what Anne said. I know when I started out 5 years ago now, well, this is my 5th year, but I had yourself in giving a talk, and it certainly opened up my eyes into, what was out there and how to get the ball rolling. I know through that we ended up getting a link with Abacus, which is still going to this day, which is brilliant. So apart from it's amazing for the students to get that talk as well and get the ideas going, but for a new coordinator in the role at the time, it was unbelievable for myself. So I would definitely say, if there are coordinators listening to this or teachers who are involved, give Gráinne a shout. Make sure she's on your email and that you are sending things her way. And also for the students, you know, us as teachers don't know everything, and sometimes we might know about certain things that you're involved in. Don't be afraid to be that voice and come up to your coordinator or your teacher and say, look, miss, I do such and such, we're looking for people to help out, can you do it? Or miss, I've heard about this. You know, a lot of that can be word of mouth too. So if there is something you're interested in, speak up. And there are so many people out there that are just delighted to have anybody involved. And all it takes is that first step. As someone who has been volunteering for a long time now, as I said, outside of school, you know, the satisfaction you get from that is beyond anything. You know, just knowing that you are helping people and that you're making a difference is amazing. And only for the likes of volunteer centre there in Louth, you know, there would be so many people who aren't getting that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's a perfect end. Talking about the satisfaction you get out of volunteering. I think that's a lovely way to wrap up. Thank you both for your time. I'm sure everybody's going to get loads out of this today, and I'm sure I'll be talking to both of you in the near future. Thanks a million.
Bye.